cat traditions. Two related threads to spin into today's yarn. One, the ruler with divine mandate, aka the God is on our side, sovereign. And the other, the actual mediation process of landing into a shared reality, determining what side is God on and are you on the right or wrong side of reality. First, of the God is on our side, on our nation's side, really on my side guy, the Holy Emperor. We haven't really seen those in the Western world since the late Middle Ages. Yes, theocratic governments in the Islamic world, that's been there, but in the West, not so much. That we have now crossed the threshold where other measures fail and we must once again invoke the divine mandate. God is on our nation's side, God supports our mission, God protects our troops in the battle as we are marching forth for a righteous victory, for great justice in our favor. Right, that's what it is, right? Then you have the crusaders of faith and the defenders of faith, both laying claim to the Holy Land. Whose side is God on? Or is God on nobody's side? That God you invoke, when it's a God crafted from your fears and your hopes, crafted to match your agenda, then that God is by default on your side. As much for the other side. Their craftings are by default on their side. Then we have the clash of the titans. Which demiurge, which graven image? Graven, for it is crafted to your graven needs and fears, is on whose side, and will they all collapse, implode and dissolve at the end of the day when the final battle is fought? Warriors in the name of Asgard, the Viking berserkers, donning their bearskins, their wolfskins, going into shamanic trance, possessed by Overlord Odin, fearless slaying their enemies. In there, God was certainly on their side. But does that give you any kind of a universal mandate, or simply a particular drive? These sorts of gods that you invoke in order to establish your mandate and even gain empowerments, whether it's the high patriarch of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob from the heavenly throne, or whatever other variety of finite God for a particular purpose that you may reach out for to establish yourself as victorious, these are obviously not a universal, unbiased God. These are obviously not the ultimate one God. As such, this sort of rhetoric, reference, invocation of the divine mandate, it gives you no standing at all in the God of truth and light, in the God of reality, actuality as it is. It only gives you leverage in your world of illusions and the collective mind you have harnessed for your operation. Your nation, your nation's egregores, these you tap into by invoking your God, the God that you have harnessed for your cause. On the human plane, we fail to reconcile, we do not bend, we do not yield, we do not harmonize our conflicted polarities, we hold on to our biases. We don't want to let go and deal with what is. We want to distort reality. And we reach for these superstates, our gods, to bolster our standing, to empower us to be victorious in our perverted quest for dominion. And yes, if that's truly how it must be, then let each and every one of these potential gods be invoked and brought to the battlefield. That's your classic Ragnarok, that's your Armageddon scenario. For the ultimate dayside, the death of all your false gods crafted from your desires. These are all gods of death, of destruction, morbid gods. They lead you along into your demise. But that's all right. Do what you will. Now on the other hand, if we do realize the terminality of these drives, the invocation of mutually exclusive divine mandates, all these righteous wars, the question comes, how do we reconcile? Where is the process of mediation? We need to negotiate, we need to harmonize. In that process, not only do we need a mediator that is impartial, that is neutral, that is in the true midst of things, we also require both parties, all parties, to yield before truth and actuality, acknowledge their conditions, acknowledge, own up their drives that were out of balance, where they sought for dominion to subjugate others, in conflict with reality, in conflict with the natural truth, the emergent necessities of all things. Raw, uncoated truth sits in your midst, recognizing your concerns, asking you questions. What is this? Why is this? Will you answer? If you won't, you forfeit your right to be on God's side. For God, actual, will never ever take your side. You will take God's side in the middle of all things. Simple as that. Will you come to God's side? Will you allow all of us to be on God's side, or will you continue to polarize in your favor? This God, unbiased, raw consciousness, the potential for every creation, the witness of the truth of what is as it is, will not enter anyone's side. If it were to become on a polarized side, if it were to join a party, it would become a subset of what is. The radiant truth of things would still remain as it is, but you would have simply bottled a version in your favor, but not entering God actual's side. The God of being, the God of becoming, is and becomes as it may in the natural order of things, in the convergence of the patterns of our reality. And that's all. You either recognize it or you refuse, you battle reality. In recognizing that God, in capitulating before that God, are there natural ethics emergent, equality of us all, our fundamental sameness and the imperatives that arise from the needs of that sameness. Will you embrace those as your baselines? Refuse the callings of naked reality. Drive on your assertions in those reality tunnels. Take on the side doors that open in your favor, and you are working with the God of lies. You become the Lord of lies. The Lord of lies, master of every shitfly hovering over the carcasses left lying on the battleground of your polarizations. That. Then whoever among you twisted heads of state, corrupt sovereigns, wishes to carry that divine mandate in your biased favor, by all means drive it all to the final battlefield of resolutions and terminations. Then every one of you corrupt heads of state, deluded sovereigns, by all means carry your divine mandates and craft your scaffoldings to the max. Build again that temple of the Holy One. Bring on board every angelic hierarchy, every ancient system, and in there, in its midst, sit on the throne, be the abomination that causes desolation, and terminal it shall be for us all. It's long overdue. But do realize the path you take. These are truly times of madness, a world drunk on the vapors of the whore of Babylon, whatever that we chase in our tunnels of intention, attention. Nothing else matters. Reality, in your face, the truth of all things, deflected, denied, rebelled against. What do you expect? A fundamental rupture with the natural becoming of all that is, the terminal. And mind you, none of this is prophetic as such. Mere acknowledgement, recognition of the patterns that are being driven, and the inevitable outcomes of our departure from reality, the driving of illusions that are fundamentally incompatible with what is. What do you expect? Enter the middle path of reconciliations, unbiased, transparent, or drive your divine mandate to the end of the line, like whatever. As it must be, so it becomes. Time will tell what the outcome is. Kalos miloko kshaya krit prabridha. Time I am, the ancient destroyer of worlds. But time, the iteration of the truth of creation, has no agenda or opinion beyond what must become in the natural course of all that is. You have the choice of the patterns you drive. You have the option to realign yourself. Realignment into a false center, the abomination that causes desolation. Realignment in the innate truth of God, beyond yourself, beyond your opinions, heaven on earth. But when Eden must be yours and not theirs, then, it goes as it must. See you on the other side.